Hi dear students, good morning. Today we can start our economic class, our first chapter, the story of village Palampur. I hope all of you collected the textbook. You see, this is our economics textbook. And we have only 4 chapters we have to study from our chapter. First one is the story of village Palampur. So you just open your economics textbook. So CBSE made a lot of changes in the pattern of question. So the line by line you have to read and study very well. So that's fine. I asked you to open the textbook and listen the class. So what's the name of our chapter? The story of village Palampur. We all are living in villages and we enjoy its beauty, and nowadays its infrastructure facilities, that is because of the development of its infrastructure facilities. In the time of lockdown also, we are not facing that much challenges to get day-to-day things. So let's enter our chapter. So first you can see that when you open the textbook, you can see the overview. And the overview, when you go through that introductory area, you can see that in this chapter what we are going to study mentioned there. So here, the story of Palampur introduce some basic ideas, basic concepts relating to production, and through the story of an imaginary and a hypothetical or an imaginary village known as Palampur. No, this Palampur, it is an imaginary village. And next, you can see what is the main production activity in Palampur. Farming is the main main activity in Palampur. Farming is the main activity in Palampur. So just you underline that area and write what is the main activity in Palampur. So what is the main activity in Palampur? Farming is the main activity in Palampur. And other than that, there are some other activities also. So people engaged in some other activities for earning something or earning some income. There are some examples in our textbook. There were small scale manufacturing, dairy, transport, etc. And when you go through your village, you can see people engaged in various activities. And these production activities need various resources also. People engaged in various activities means they need different resources also. Sometimes natural resources, sometimes man-made resources. So natural resources and man-made items the people need for the production activities. See, for the production or for the construction of a building, you know that a natural resource must need. What is a natural resource there? Land. At the same time, man-made items are there. Bricks, cement, etc. included in the man-made items. So for the production activities, people needed various resources, the natural resources and also man-made items. So when we go through this story of village Palampur, we can study about the various resources required for the production, or how these various resources used for the production of goods and services in this village, that we are going to study in our chapter. So let's move to our introduction. So introduction about our village. What is the name of the village now? Palampur. You know that the Palampur is a hypothetical or an imaginary village. So how they describe about the Palampur village or describe the infrastructure facilities of Palampur. Palampur is a well connected with the neighboring villages and towns. Palampur, it well connected with the neighboring villages and towns. Now, Raiganj, a big village. That means 3 kilometers from Palampur, a big village known as Raiganj. So Palampur also connected with this village. Then how this village connected to Raiganj? In which way? There an all-weather road connects the village to Raiganj, and also it connected the nearby town known as Shahpur. So through the road, these villages and towns were connected. So many kinds of transportation facilities also we can see in Palampur. So in the roads we can see there were different types of carts, bullock carts, bogies, tongas, and these carts are loaded with the jaggery and other commodities. And also we can see there were different motor vehicles also like jeeps, tractors and trucks. So when you go through the infrastructure facilities of Palampur, you can see well developed road is there. Vehicles are there. And next we are going to discuss about the families living in Palampur. There were about 450 families. 450 families belonged in different categories, different castes. How many? 450 families, underline it. And among these 450, 80 belonged in upper caste. Underline that, 80 upper caste families. They own the majority of the land in the village. So 80 upper caste families own the majority of land in the village. And what type of a house they own or they live in? Their houses quite large. They lived in large houses made of brick with a cement plastering. So these upper caste families living in large houses made of bricks and cement plastering. So how many families? 80 families. Then other group of families living there, they are the SC, scheduled caste or Dalits. So 1/3 of the population comprised of this SC. Which category? SC. And they lived in the one corner of a village, and they lived in small houses that made of mud and straw. So this SC, scheduled caste, constituted the 1/3 of the total population of Palampur, and they lived in small houses made of mud and straw. And next we can discuss about how these houses, most of the houses have electric connections. So electricity powers all the tube wells in the fields, or electricity powers all the tube wells in the fields and is used in various type of small business. So what's the almost all houses electricity connection there, and at the same time this electricity used for or helped for running business. At the same time it also helped to irrigate the fields. Irrigate the fields means they use electric running motor pumps for the irrigation. So there are lot of uses of electricity. And other infrastructure facility of Palampur, that Palampur has 2 primary schools and 1 high school. Palampur has 2 primary school and 1 high school, and also 1 health center. This run by the government, and 1 dispensary run by the private, where the sick sick are treated. So what we discussed now, an all-weather road is there. Next, electricity reached earlier in Palampur, and Palampur there's 2 primary schools and health centers also. And so when we go through all these we can conclude that Palampur is a well-developed village. So when we go through this description, we can see that Palampur is a fairly well-developed village and the system of a good transportation system there, electricity, irrigation facilities, schools and health center. So different facilities are there in Palampur. You know that earlier I told you Palampur is an imaginary village. And we can see there is different types of production activities occurred in Palampur. In village across India, farming is the main production activity. So through this story of village Palampur, we are studying about the village across India. So when we go through this, almost all villages of India, farming is the main production activity. And the other production activities referred to as non-farm activities. So the production activities we can categorize as farm activities and non-farm activities. So here in Palampur, the non-farm activities such as small-scale manufacturing, transport, shopkeeping, etc. So Palampur, we are going to study here different type of non-farm activities like small-scale manufacturing, shopkeeping, transport, etc. So we have to go through all these activities in the next session. And before that, we have to study about some factors of production, or what are the general things needed for production we have to learn. So that we have to study in the next section. So today, my dears, we completed the first page of our chapter. So we discussed the infrastructure facilities of Palampur, about the families of Palampur, and what is the main production activities of Palampur and the non-farm activities of Palampur. Just an introduction we completed now. So my dear students, some questions I am saying here. So these questions answers you have to find out. So what is the main activity in Palampur? You know that farming is the main activity in Palampur. And what is the status of upper caste families in Palampur? There are 80 upper caste families. Majority of the land is owned by these upper caste families, and they lived in large houses with constructed with the bricks and cement plastering. Then see, next we can say another question is that, or how can you say that Palampur is a well-developed village? So, saying all this development in that village, you can say that Palampur is a well-developed village. Give some examples also. Then next we discuss what was the benefit of electricity in Palampur. What was the benefit of electricity in Palampur? You know that most of the houses own the electricity connection. At the same time, this electricity they used to pump water to their fields or the irrigation facilities. And some other business also they used electricity. So that is the benefit of electricity in Palampur. Or what is the impact of electricity in irrigation in Palampur? That we have to discuss. So what is the main question? How can you say Palampur is a well-developed village? Write with the examples. So hope all of you carefully listen this. So go through this page 1 or 2 times. Thank you. Have a nice day.